विराये खेलतु मम हृदये श्रीरामः खेलतु मम हृदये।
बोल श्री रामचंद्र भगवान की जय।
प्रपन्न पारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। Sri Krishna's message in the verse 12 of this chapter 2 is that death is not real. We are talking about death here, for in the context of the Mahabharata war, Arjuna was especially disturbed on the prospect of death of his teachers, of many uncles, cousins, and so on. He was concerned about people on both Pandava and Kaurava side dying. So the language employed here is of death. You and I also are afraid of death, but generally we may not be thinking about it on a day-to-day basis. We are not afraid of death, not because we are so fearless, but we have other problems to think about. Many other problems, many other concerns come up, and therefore we say it is not death alone. This verse in fact covers that whole gamut of our fears. In fact, very many times in such instances, translators employ the word change in place of death. We are afraid of change. Today, even in the corporate world, there is a big topic called coping with change. Change of technology, change of business models, varieties of scenarios, or someone loses one's job, unexpected changes. What is an advantage today is not an advantage tomorrow. Change causes fear in us, and this verse says to us what causes fear actually need not cause fear. The first verse also said, you grieve over what doesn't call for grieving. You are crying over things that do not warrant any crying. That also applies to change. What does Sri Krishna mean? Broadly speaking, it is the two planes of thought and awareness. By thought we mean all those patterns of thinking where essentially our attachments and aversions surface. When we are thinking, thoughts are flowing, if we closely watch, every second moment there is either a sense of fear or a sense of elation. We think of some pleasant past event, we feel good, how nice it was. And we remember an unpleasant event and we feel very sad about it. And projecting it into future, we fear that that unpleasant event may again take place. He insulted me yesterday, and who knows, he may do so tomorrow also. Who is saying this? The surroundings are very silent. The trees, the lawn, the beautiful sun are all fantastic. You cannot ask for anything more. But it is our own thought, mind, flow of thoughts. If the mind could be silent, heavens are right here. A Buddhist greeting card once said, there is no way to peace, peace is the way. There is no way to peace, but peace is the way. Which means, here is peace, be with it, discover it. And by being in peace, which is right now here, you have found your way. So they question thought, they also question mind conceived time. Time as conceived by the mind. Time as shown by the clock is a part of the phenomenal universe. Swamiji used to call it the Einsteinian world of space-time continuum. Space and time, they are called a continuum because in something which is really very hard for most people to even imagine, Einstein had shown that they are not two independent domains, they are connected, they are a continuum. Therefore, they talk of slowing down of time and warping of space and so on. It's a little hard for most people to understand unless they study it and figure out what is meant by that. So, there is the clock time. They call it sometimes chronological time. Then there is psychological time. Psychological time is something that goes together with memory, with thought, and what is more, with the self, which is ego. As most of you know, Maharshi Ramana extensively touched upon the play of ego. Where there is the rise of ego, a million problems appear to be real, he said. When this ego subsides, all the problems also subside. So, this rises, everything comes. This subsides, everything goes. Therefore, tackle this, tackle the ego, tackle the self with a small s. It is described as a certain center in you and me. There is a certain center which feels elated, which feels very good at times, and it is the same center which at other times feels low, which feels hurt, which feels afraid. In other words, while we talk about number of problems like desire and fear and anxiety and agitation, hurt, insecurity and so on, all of them actually stay on, or all of them reside in, all of them are held on one platform. There is one center which as though gathers all of them in it, and that center in every one of us is called the I. Maharshi Ramana calls it I thought, I-thought, and it is in the context or in the frame of reference of the I thought that you have sorrow, you have death. On the second plane, where we say the I thought has merged, these are the expressions used. The I thought returns to its source. That is another language that is employed. Or as Andy remembered from 1975 talk of Swami Chinmayanandaji in USC, right? University of Southern California in Los Angeles, where he was a student, and he caught up with Swamiji in 75. I was behind you by 5 years. I caught up with Swamiji in 80, then we caught up with each other in 94. He hosted me for 5 days and it was great fun. So, as he remembered yesterday when introducing himself, Swamiji was there in University of Southern California, as he was here in many parts of the country, with his BMI chart, body, mind, intellect. As the body you are the perceiver of objects, as the mind you are the feeler of emotions, as the intellect you are the thinker of your thoughts, and moving left and right and swinging, and so much drama he did, and lot of us were made to believe that okay, we are going to realize tomorrow morning. So like, who is that? Pied Piper of Hamelin. I don't know that fully. I have not been a student of English literature. All my English is from the sidelines. I never studied English literature properly. Picked up English, quite a bit of English from sidelines. That Pied Piper, he blows or he plays that pipe, and all the mice, first it was mice and later on a rather tragic end of that unforgettable story, all the children go behind him. Swamiji also did that. The only difference is he did not lead us to some terrible cave. He led us on the path of spiritual inquiry and gave us a great start. He never promised tomorrow morning you will realize, so we cannot blame him. It was our fantasy. And if we haven't reached, we don't blame him. It's because we did not surrender fully. We were holding on to certain things with one hand, and with the other hand we were asking Swamiji, give liberation. He said, dono haath kholo, open both your hands. No, please give us moksha. He said, you are holding your right hand behind your back. Then we said, oh, okay. We brought the right hand front and left hand went behind. In other words, to him or to the Lord or to truth, you name it as you like, we were giving conditional offering. The moment, like Draupadi opening or stretching both her arms and praying to Krishna, the moment we fully open, the grace of the Lord comes to us with no delay whatsoever. Yasya smarana matrena janma sansara bandhanat vimuchyate namastasmai Vishnave Prabhavishnave. By just one remembrance, the initial dhyana shloka of Vishnu Sahasranama says, remember him once and you are done. Having raised it, I may again recount how they asked Ramana Maharshi, how much time did it take for you to wake up, realize, get enlightened? He first said, well, it was a couple of hours. Then he said, no, it was few seconds. Then he paused and said, to put it precisely, it did not take time. For realization is not something that is an event in time. If you know the true nature of realization, it is not at all a phenomenon like an egg hatching or a flower blooming or the sun rising and so on. Those are events in phenomenal world, in the phenomenal universe. Realization is not a temporal matter. He clarified and he said, sorry, you cannot apply time. And the audience was, what you call, shocked. You and I say, I need some time to understand this. How can something be beyond time? So, the two planes, I said the body, mind, intellect, perceiver, feeler, thinker, objects, emotions, thoughts. Swamiji explained in his own way, but above them is Om. On the plane of Om, there is no death, there is no grief, there is no sorrow. And as our friend rightly remembered, what obstructs is this layer of vasanas, extrovertedness, urges. A simple model had a whole lot to tell us, and rest of it is details. I would not say unimportant details. In my opinion, rest of it is important details. Rest of it meaning you have the BMI chart, BMI, PFT, OET, V for vasanas, and above it Om. Most of you are familiar with it. Otherwise also it is all right. We talk of the sphere of physical and emotional forces, urges, tendencies. Then there is something above the physical and emotional level. In a simple, much simpler model, you talk of body-mind, body-mind, mind-body. Deepak Chopra talked about mind-body relationship, and he established an institution in Los Angeles only, mind-body medicine, Center for Mind-Body Medicine. So where you cure things of the body, sometimes by direct medicine or by sometimes working on the mind, or you could cure problems of the mind by acting on the body, because they are interrelated. Where you begin is up to you. So there is this mind-body complex. So one of the answers to the question, who am I, can be, I am a psychophysical complex. I am a mind-body, complex. A duo. Two are intricately involved there. All right. So one plane of all this body, mind and so on, and another untouched by mind and body, untouched by time, untouched by thought, and so on. Sri Krishna is leading us very lovingly, carefully. And once more, if you and I are fully available, these teachings are enough to cook the goose, to finish us off. But we are not fully available. We give some conditional support. We are like those Trinamool Congress and so on, who join the coalition but always keep Manmohan Singh on tenterhooks. The ruling party is always not sure ये कहाँ तक रहेंगे. So our gurus also are never sure कहाँ तक we stay with them. Anyway, I need not indulge too much in analogies. So come to the point. Sri Krishna is lovingly guiding us, and this is a powerful guidance. Both Sri Ramakrishna in the eastern part of the country, Sri Maharshi Ramana in the south, and I am sure some in the west, some in the north and so on. But to mention two as examples, both of them had said, if you go through the Gospel of Ramakrishna or talks with Ramana Maharshi, when asked, they said, the Gita alone is enough. Nothing else is needed. It has all the material, all the study material to master the science of self-knowledge, to be free of the little self. This handheld, not smartphone, what is this? Handheld Bhagavad Gita. Today we are more familiar with phones. Everybody is holding on to a cell phone. But this handheld or hand-holdable Bhagavad Gita has everything. So let us see how he amplifies, that is, elaborates and gives what I just now acknowledged as important details in following verses. Dehinosmin yatha dehe Kaumaram yauvanam jara Tatha dehantara praptihi Dhirastatra na muhyati. Together, Dehinosmin yatha Kaumaram yauvanam jara Tatha dehantara praptihi Dhirastatra na muhyati. Matra sparshastu kaunteya Shitoshna sukha dukkhada Agama paino nityaha Tan stitikshasva bharata Matra sparshastu kaunteya Arjuna is afraid of death. In a broader sense, Arjuna or every one of us is afraid of change. Outer change, inner change, and change in relationships. A very elderly lady of Toronto, who by chance happened to be from my own little village in Karnataka, came to know me somewhere 94 or so, and she liked me very much. I also liked her. And in a year or so, she flew to California, where I was there those days for a few years. because her brother lived there, and she met me there also. Very elderly, quite old, her hands were trembling, and she liked me as a Vedanta teacher, but of that memory or the feeling that, oh, he is from my village. Long back she had been a maths teacher in our village school. My elder brothers and all were her students. I was junior. And so many memories. She knew my family too. Hey, you are son of that family. Oh, and so on. Okay. And I remember after several meetings, she had to fly back to Canada from California. She came one more time to the ashram and met me half an hour. And she became emotional. I was 20 years younger to her, I guess. And then she held my hand and said, I'm so happy meeting you from my own village. I said, I am also happy. Then she said, please, I have a request. I said, what? Don't change. Don't change. Just to be like you are. I don't know what I said. She went. After that, I dramatically changed. Today, if she meets me, she will be disappointed. Or maybe not. Because she too would have dramatically changed. You know. I don't know. Today, I lost touch with her. But if she meets me today, she may first say, you changed. What happened to your orange? Or any other thing. You changed. Then I will also say to her, you too seem to have changed, Amma. And maybe, to be optimistic, she may again hold my hand. But it's okay, I like you now also. Now don't change further. So when you and I like each other, we want to freeze that. Though really, if you actually freeze, it will be so boring. It will be so boring. I get so many memories, I will not go into them. Or having made that face, I must tell you. See, other day, February 2 it was, right? Most of you travelled on February 2, some came on 3rd. And some who catch up with God a little late came today. So, February 2, if I remember right, is called Groundhog Day. Is it right? Has anybody seen that movie here? Groundhog Day. Andy, you have seen? No. They showed it to me long back when I was over there. There is a very humorous movie. If you get a chance, take it and watch it. You will laugh and laugh. Groundhog Day, and I'll be very brief on that. The scenario is, it's a, what you call, not a true story, it's a humorous thing. A representative of a television company comes to one town in Pennsylvania, and in Pennsylvania, in some village, they celebrate this Groundhog Day, February 2 every year. A hog means a pig, but groundhog is a small animal that comes out from the ground every February 2. Like in India, we have on some hill on such day, such and such day, there is a flame. There are some events, and some places every day at such time a bird comes and sits on that hill or on that temple tower, you feed. There are beliefs and there is some religious importance attached to it. So in this town of Pennsylvania or village, you have this Groundhog Day, and this television reporter with all these video cameras and all that go there on February 2. And they shoot the whole thing. There is great excitement. Thousands of villagers come to have one sight of that pig coming out, and it is supposed to be, harbinger of good luck. If you sight that groundhog coming out, the year will be very lucky for you. So there are beliefs, and then there is celebration. It is a mela. So everything is done, And then by afternoon, he is from New York, he is restless. Why did they send me to this village, God-forsaken village? I like to be in Manhattan. So he tries to drive back and reach back, but a very bad snowstorm catches him. They cannot proceed, snowstorm. He curses the stars and comes back to that town, and there is some nice hotel there in that town. So he again checks into the same room. Luckily that room is still available. He was some famous comedian and so on. I don't remember the actor's name. Now the drama begins now. He is really upset. I wanted to be back in New York, and tomorrow first thing I do is I have a hot cup of coffee and drive out. And next morning when he wakes up, he looks at there is some kind of mechanical clock which changes. Instead of February 3, it is again February 2. What's wrong with this clock? Yesterday was February 2, we did our job, we are going now, but this shows February 2 again. So he just pushes that clock and comes down the hotel room to the lobby to have a hot cup of coffee. And to his surprise, though he is a bit sleepy and all that, he finds that the people there, the settings there, etc. are exactly as it was the earlier day morning, February 2 morning. Doesn't matter. He goes and has a cup of coffee, goes out, then everybody is excited. Today is Groundhog Day, today is Groundhog Day, they are all going there. He said, is it not over? No, today is February 2. He is very confused. Yesterday was February 2, I have done the shooting. Then anyhow, he finds this, his team also is there with the whole vehicle, video camera and all that. They say, why are you so late? We got to go, come. They pull him, and it is Groundhog Day again. He says, what is this going on? It's a very humorous movie. He shoots again, and then he says, maybe something wrong with my brain. Maybe I have memories of something which never happened. Today is actually Groundhog Day. So he says, okay. And then anyhow, like yesterday, he says, today, now I should get back to New York. Again, afternoon 3 o'clock, they pack everything in their truck or jeep or whatever. They drive, again snowstorm, and curse the stars, again come back, check into the same hotel room, sleep. Next morning, he gets up, the clock shows February 2 again, Groundhog Day. Please see that. He says, gosh, what's happening? He comes down, same setting. As his coffee comes out, people are saying, why are you late? Join, let's go, it's Groundhog Day, let's shoot. He remembers. The strange thing is, everybody is reenacting and nobody knows. Everybody thinks it's first time, whatever year it was. Let's say it's a 70s movie maybe, 1978, February 2. Everybody thinks 1978, February 2 has come first time. But he knows that this is now the 7th time I am doing this. And since he knows the whole town now. Even when he takes a walk here and there, the same person who met him yesterday is coming across the corner, round the corner. And yesterday if he had hit against, he is about to hit. And he has, the freedom to make small changes. He is about to hit, but he avoids. And then says, yesterday I hit him, today I avoided. And then he tries, he comes to love somebody there, and she had spurned him. Now he knows what she likes, so he brings things that she likes, and slowly on the 9th attempt or 10th attempt, because it repeats. See, that's the beauty of it. Like if, I don't remember the details, if he had offered her a bouquet and she is allergic to flowers, and then he finds out that she likes apples. So he goes and gives her a box of apples. She says, this is so nice, and they become friends, and same evening they marry also. Next day again he has to meet her. She is not because he is back in the hotel room to get up in the morning to see that clock showing February 2. It's some funny stupid movie. And then he gets, that's the point here, he gets so bored. February 2, 1978 coming again and again. No matter, finally after shooting on the 100th time or so, he says, I am sick of this February 2. I am going to commit suicide. So in that village in Pennsylvania, he goes to one cliff, you call, right, edge of a hill or something, and he stretches his hands and he jumps and dies. Then he gets up again, February 2. मरने को भी नहीं देता है उसको. He takes that clock and bangs it onto that clock which shows time. February 2, फिर से bangs it. I don't want this February 2. I want to move on to February 3. What about that girl whom I don't want her. What about that party? I don't want that. Whatever. I want to February 3rd, I want to get back to New York. He doesn't succeed at all. Goes on and on and on. But the movie ends with something happens, and that lock, it was a time lock, so to say. This is something like it's a combination of comedy and science fiction. It keeps you thinking, can it happen like that? You keep wondering. After seeing that movie in some house on those video tapes, I was in the hangover of it for, I talked about it in so many Gita, Upanishad, Ramayana, anything, I would talk about Groundhog Day. Now after 18 years or so, I am again talking about it. Never mind. But the point is, you say, I don't want change. How nice it is, how beautiful, be as you are, But like in that Groundhog Day movie, if nothing changes, you get so sick of it. I am sick of this. I want everything to change. Same wife, same children, same guru. 6th forum camp is okay, 7th also may be okay, 8th is fine, 9th, 10th. 11th, I am sure you will tell Vibaji, can you not get another Swamiji? इसी स्वामी जी को बार बार बिठा रहे हैं आप. Or you may ask me, can you not get some other organizer? Whatever. Or both Vibaji and I will stand on the lawn. यही 7 लोग आ रहे हैं. इनको कितने बार बनारस में मैंने एक शब्द सीखा. इन्हीं लोगों को कितने बार झेलना है. So we will ask for different audience. कोई दूसरे. Very funny. Huh? So in a way we are afraid of change, coping with change. But in another way, we want change. Badlav. We want badlav. But anyway, you know what is the context. Sri Krishna says, the law of life is everything changes, whether you like it or not. One who is Kumar, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram. A Kumar, we saw the word in the morning, Kumaram santam tam shraddha vivesha. One who is an infant is bound to become young man or a young woman, Yauvanam, then Jara, bound to become old. And doesn't stop there. Yatha kaumaram yauvanam jara bhavanti eva tatha. In the same way, dehantara prapti. You, the soul, are bound to take another body. That is a very nice way of saying you are going to die. A very encouraging way. You are going to get a new body. मर जाओगे, if you say, it's a very unpleasant way of saying. आपको नया शरीर मिलेगा. This is a happy way of saying. तथा देहांतर प्राप्ति ही. Whatever language you use, the message is clear. We tend to get depressed But Sri Krishna says, Dhiraha, if you are wise, then na muhyati, you will not get deluded, you welcome. You welcome even death. As Krishna ji mentioned about, if you welcome death, if you say, I want to meet death, rather than running away from death, you say, I want to meet death, death will disappear. Generally, if death says, I am coming, come, hold my hand, let's go, you are afraid, you are terribly afraid. No, don't come, dur raho. But if you are wise, dhiras tatra na muhyati. If you are wise, death calls you, chalo dildar chalo, he says to you, you will say, hum bhi tayyar chalo. Hai na? Bhagavad Gita gave ideas to Bollywood. So a lot of songs in Gita, not Gita, where? Bollywood. Where from this? If you can say to death, hum bhi tayyar chalo, we are ready. Then death says, I think I came to the wrong person. ये कहाँ आ गए हम? Death will not come to you. जब तक आप भाग रहे हैं, death comes behind you. धीरस तत्र न मुह्यति. And even during our life, there are so many moments of despair. Most of us every morning say, oh, I have to get up, I have to face the world again. If I could sleep one more hour, and so on and so forth. Others may be at other times. All of us have, there is some psychology about it, our best time. Some are morning persons, some are evening persons. There is that language, right? Some are afternoon persons. I am an afternoon person, they say. Some are coffee persons. What it means is, they like mornings, they like coffee. Right. But they don't like tea, they don't like evenings. I am not an evening person, they say. We had one Venkat Rangan, he was our organizer and he organized a lot of programs of Swamiji. In fact, his house was the last house where Swamiji stayed, had a meal. He felt uneasy. From his house he went to hospital, and from the body point of view, that was the end. So this person, a wonderful organizer, very devoted, but he was never in time to the morning class, morning meditation, leave alone taking some responsibility, attend ही नहीं करते. He would not come. So once we asked him, Venkat, we didn't see you in the morning meditation class. His answer was, I am not a morning person. His day begins late. So you and I have our moments of feeling fully in control in the same day. At one time we feel, I want to live long. But another time all of us feel, thak gaye. Why am I here? I want to go. Right? Sri Krishna says here that is the nature of Prakriti. The nature of Prakriti is to give you sukha at times, and other times, like it or not, it gives you dukkha. At some time during the day you feel on top of the world, that is also one trick played by Prakriti on you. Another time you feel so low, that's another trick. Both are false. And they are all deceptions brought about by the contact of matra and sparsha. Matra is sense organs. Sense organs come in touch with sense objects and many things happen. You feel good at times, you feel bad at times. Inquiry requires that you question both of them. You and I don't question when the going is good. Only when the going is bad we say, why is this to me? Why is this not to the neighbor? Why am I suffering? Why is this something unfair happening to me? No. Inquiry requires that you not take anything for its face value. Not by suppressing your emotions, not by sweeping the dust under the carpet, but by facing it. Therefore, Krishnamurti's teachings are best summarized in fact in that one expression, be with what is. Suppose there is fear in you, be with it. Don't try to cover it up by some mumbo jumbo. Don't try to, escape from it. One of his CDs is titled Fear, a Precious Jewel. You would think there is some printing mistake. You never call fear a jewel. You would call love a jewel, friendship a jewel, or compassion a precious jewel. Does anybody call fear a jewel? But in one of his talks he makes a statement. He was weird in his own way. Fear is a precious jewel. So what he means is, when you are seized with fear, rather than saying, I want to run away from this fear, I don't want this fear, why is this fear rising in me? Rather than reacting like that, welcome it. And though it's of course understandably it's an uncomfortable experience, yet be with the fear. Be with what is. You may have studied a lot of Brahman, Vedanta, and in the Vedanta, Brahman alone is. Everything else is illusory. Brahma Satyam, Jagad Mithya. Okay? That is okay in its place. We are not doubting the wisdom of that. But here the language is different. Here by saying what is, we are referring to whatever there is in the consciousness as you are experiencing it. You are feeling lonely. You raised your only daughter last 25 years. Your life was revolving around your daughter, and though she was not eager, you only pressurized her, found a suitable groom, got her married. Now she is off. She is at some distant place. You and your husband, what do you call that home? Empty nest. Empty nest syndrome. There is some word for that. Empty nest syndrome. आपने ही बेच दिया उस लड़की को, बेचारी को. बेचारी नहीं जाना चाहती थी. आपने ही जबरदस्त शादी करा के. Did such drama. Yelled at her, screamed at her, and one day even went to the extent of saying, look, I am giving you two choices. या तो शादी कर लो, या तो चिदानंद जी के आश्रम में जाओ. कुछ तो करना चाहिए बेटी, बिटिया, करके. Finally she said, better than going behind the Swami, I rather marry. So she married. I am not talking of any particular person. Don't ask me later किसके बारे में बोल रहे थे. ये सब हो सकता है. But now she is away, your only daughter, and you feel so lonely. Krishna ji, that is J. Krishnamurti, would say, don't turn the television on and try to forget your loneliness or open some book. And of course, in his typical and rather controversial language, he would say, don't start reading Gita or Bible. He would regard that also as a sort of escape. I will not go more into it. There is a meaning in that also. But basically the essential teaching is, if you are feeling very lonely, lost, then stay with that, and without uttering a word, gently try to see. In the seeing of what is happening in you, an understanding dawns upon you. To understand your loneliness, you don't need, according to him, Oxford Dictionary by the right side, Bhagavad Gita on the left side, audio, CDs of this Swamiji or that Guru behind you, etc. and Japamala in the hand. According to him, you are the light unto yourself. आपके अंदर सारे इंटेलिजेंस है, according to him. That's what Buddha had said, Atma Deepo Bhava. Be a light unto yourself. Let's not go into details of that. Think about it. It's a thought-provoking statement. But we would say here, Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya, senses come in contact with sense objects, sometimes Sukha, sometimes Dukkha, sometimes Shita, sometimes Ushna, but most notably, all of these come and go. Agama, they come, Apaya, they go. Agama Apayinaha, and decidedly have no shade of doubt about it, Anityaha. Your joys also go, however much you may want to hold them. Your sorrows also will go, without your doing anything about them. They will go. Even this shall pass away, as the saying goes. Therefore, I use the word inquiry, but here the word goes titikshasva. Bear them, put up with them, stay with them, without unnecessary reaction. If there is something necessary, suppose you have fever, okay, take some medicine. Or suppose you are feeling very cold and there is a blanket in the room. Gita is not saying don't use sweater, don't use blanket. That's impractical. Gita is talking about the unavoidable zone. In spite of blanket and muffler and all that, suppose you feel cold, in spite of doing all that you could, somebody near to you, dear to you, left you and went away. So, unavoidable. As Gita uses the word elsewhere, anivarya, some word it is used. Apariharya, correct. Apariharya arthe, in matters that are apariharya, unavoidable, the dhira does not grieve. Dhiras tatra na muhyati. And describing such a brave, wise, I translate dhira using two words, because for me, with my conditioning, brave means courage, facing a lion or tiger or there is a snake, and yet you say, or there are other problems. But it is not just that kind of courage, there is wisdom also. But if I use only the word wise, many people would imagine that it is scholarship. Wise means, oh, they can, any topic you give, he talks. Without topic also he talks. Very wise person. So there is a misunderstanding about the word wisdom also. So better to use two words, brave and wise. That wisdom which gives you courage, and that courage which is not just a stubborn or just some kind of a will prompted courage, but courage born of wisdom. Sometimes some people have a certain willpower and they are courageous and they are thoughtless actually. Some people are not afraid because they have a way to stop thinking. You bring, you go with them, go in front of them with a knife. They have trained their mind not to think at all. So they will not tremble. You and I don't know how to stop thinking. So we start thinking, what if he stabs me and all that. So by stupefying or by stilling the mind, if somebody is able to face, I don't value it much. You are fully alert, you know what can happen, and yet because of wisdom, because of some other insight, because of some higher wisdom, by seeing something more than what you usually see, suppose you have no fear. The source of fearlessness therefore then is that wisdom, not stilling the mind. It is said sometimes that mere yoga helps you still the mind, but jnana helps you be above the mind, rise above mind. So he describes, let us see another pair of shlokas. Yam hi navyathayantyete purusham purusharshabha samadukha sukham dhiram somritatvaya kalpate. Yam hi navyathayantyete purusham purusharshabha samadukha sukham dhiram nasato vidyate bhavaha na bhavo vidyate satah ubhayorapi drashtontastu anayostattvadarshibhi nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo anayostattvadarshibhi. So there are pairs of opposites. Elsewhere Gita itself calls these pairs dvandva. Swami Akhandananda of Vrindavan used to joke, dvau in Sanskrit means two, and if you have caught some cold, your voice becomes nasal. Dvau, 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 if you want to say it becomes dvan, dvan, dvan. That is called dvandva, where there are two, heat and cold, night and day, pleasure and pain, success and failure, good and bad, high and low, and all that, pairs of opposites, dvandva. Here some samples were given, shita, ushna, sukha, dukkha. So these, suppose, do not disturb or do not unsettle, do not shake somebody, na vyathayanti purusham, and here Sri Krishna, to encourage Arjuna, calls Arjuna Purusharshava, oh the best among men. Other places, don't be a coward and so on, he taunts him, but here he says, you are an eminent person. Arjuna of course was eminent, but he was passing through a hard time, otherwise by and large he was very eminent. In his introduction to Gita, Sri Shankaracharya says, Sri Krishna, who is no other than an incarnation of Bhagavan Vasudeva, Lord Vishnu, thought that dharma has declined, something has to be done, and if I impart the highest wisdom to eminent people in the society, that will definitely then go further, spread to all, and he chose Arjuna. If Arjuna receives it, everybody else will receive it. So Sri Shankaracharya also praises Arjuna as an eminent person. O best among men, if there is a man, or for that matter a lady, whom these pairs of opposites do not disturb, and she remains sama, equal in sukha and dukkha, then she is indeed dhira, and she then becomes fit for immortality, amritattva. In a liberal translation, not to die, that is immortality, is not to be caught in time, not to be caught in thought, not to be caught in self. Time, thought and self are one. In contrast, awareness deathlessness and love are one. Where you are alert, you are loving. Where you are dreamy, where you are carried away by memories, though you say you love, it is not true love. Those who are caught in memories cannot love because they are clinging to bhut, the past. Only those can truly love who are aware of the past but who are not in the clutches of the past. Those in the clutches of the past cannot run far, गिर जाएंगे. If you are free of the past and therefore automatically free of the future, then there is a different quality to your life. And once more touching upon the metaphysical truth, transcendental truth, atindriya, in fact atimanaha, the truth that is beyond senses and mind. The 16th verse in fact is a highly significant verse. We cannot afford to go into all the details of it. First, when you read it hurriedly, it looks like a shloka having hardly any sense. It's like saying, you see, day is day, you understand, and night is night. And in this world, you see, white is white and black is black. Suppose such a statement is made, you say, you have anything sensible to say? In fact, some people have commented that this shloka has nothing to offer. Because if you read the literal translation, asat does not exist. Na asataha vidyate bhavaha. And sat, what exists, you see, has no non-existence. जो है, देखिए, वो कभी उसका अभाव नहीं होता है. What restating, it is just stating what is obvious. It looks like that. And then in the second line, Sri Krishna says, Tattvadarshi, great seers of the inner truth of things are able to distinguish these two, Sat and Asat. They are able to see the inside of Sat and Asat. Ubayoho antaha. Antaha is inside. They are able to see the inside of Sat, they are able to see the inside of Asat. But the first line is very puzzling. Na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate sataha. However, knowing that Lord Krishna has better things to do than just making, commonplace statements, like suppose there were to be a shloka in the Gita which says, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west and is read in the morning, again read in the evening, and set to a nice meter. So, क्या जानना है उसमें? What is there to know in it? So they won't, and such a shloka cannot be in Bhagavad Gita. So here also we say, let us pause and see again. It is very significant. He is saying that the realm of thought, though it appears to be Sat, is actually Asat. Our fears are false. Our attachments are actually without any substance in them. They are an illusion. They look very real. You and I beat our chest and say, don't you agree, anyone in my position would have cried, would have even attempted suicide. I am going through such hard time. And our friends sympathetically say, yes, 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 and so on. Our sorrows look extremely real, but it is Asat, and this Asat, this false, this illusory fears of yours, na vidyate bhavaha. If only you inquire, the whole message is please inquire. Please don't take things for their face value. Please examine. Even Socrates, before taking that, what do you call that? That cup of poison. There is some better word for that cup. some word. That cup has some classic word for it. A cup of poison he takes and dies. Before dying, he gives that immortal speech. In that, the much quoted, if not most quoted statement is, an unexamined life is not worth living. An unexamined life is not worth living. Alas, most people on the earth live their life without examining it, without inquiring, without asking the one most important question, who am I? They only ask everybody else, who are you? Who are you? And so on. And if the other person says, I am Michelle's husband, hastily you say, so am I. An unexamined life. If you inquire, the illusion disappears, the magic lifts, all the fog disappears and you have clear vision. So the message is, please inquire. Michelle and Obama other day went to a restaurant in New York. It was on, I don't know what, some 45th floor or some even higher. What do you call that? Rotating, revolving on top of a skyscraper. Obama and Michelle, husband and wife, sat to have some delicious dinner. The owner came running and said, welcome, welcome. And then, embarrassing Obama a little bit, he said in a voice which Obama also could hear, a half whisper. He said to Michelle, do you mind if I want to talk to you just 2 minutes separately, privately? Michelle looked at Obama, you mind? Oh no, please. America, you know, husbands cannot say I mind. So Michelle and she went, and within 2 minutes she was back. Obama said, but Obama was very curious. ये रेस्टोरेंट ओनर मालिक क्या क्या पूछता है मेरी बीवी से? So he said, I don't know whether he calls Michelle or Michi or something. Michi, if you don't mind, what did he talk to you? She said, you know, please don't get embarrassed. Maybe I'll tell you another day. You were more curious? No, you tell me now. Abhi bolo. Then Michelle said, well, nothing to worry about. Very nice guy, a thorough gentleman. In fact, he said, Michelle, just felt like taking it off my chest and congratulate you. You are the first lady of the country. You may not remember me, but I remember you very well. I went to the same college. He gave the details. I was your classmate. And I never gathered courage to come near you, but I was madly in love with you. Even till the last day of our college, I wanted to come and at least tell you that I love you. But I somehow was afraid. Somehow I was afraid. I didn't tell you. But today I somehow felt, let me tell her. That's all. I loved you, but later on, you know, life took different directions. I'm very fine. I have a very wonderful wife and family, and I see you are happy too. It's so nice that, etc. This is all he said, and thorough gentleman Obama, or Obi, or whatever, you know, or Bami. Other day, one Rajgarh Besant School student asked me, what's the name of Obama's wife? I said, Michelle. No? Obama's wife is Satyabama, he said. That's okay. Now the joke is this. Obama said to Michelle, you know, look, Michelle, he was in love with you. If you had married him, you know, by today, by now, you would have been the wife of the owner of such a wonderful restaurant. And she said, no, it's not that way. You know, What's that? Wait a minute. If he had married me, he would have been president of US today. वो यदि मुझसे शादी करते, आज वो अमेरिका के प्रेसिडेंट होते। मैं ही उसकी एक ऐसे रेस्टोरेंट की मालिक थोड़ी ही बनती, वो प्रेसिडेंट बनते अब। ओम शांति शांति शांति। We can have 15 minutes. No, will be. The sun is shining for us. The breeze is for us. People should go enjoy.